Mr. Rakesh Sharma now joins us to throw more light on how things could move for the entire banking sector per se and what we should expect, if anything at all, from this year's budget. Mr. Sharma, good morning. Thank you for joining us. On television channel, we always like to understand the inside story. So I'm going to urge you and request you to tell us the inside story when the bankers met the finance minister.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Nikunj. Your inside story basically, it is customary, and the finance ministers calls for recommendation whenever the budget is forthcoming. So this is part of the process. So accordingly, they had called the bankers also. So naturally, the government is interested in reforms, and they are looking forward to deepen the corporate bond market and increase the scope of alternate financial institutions, AFI, and the further, of course, various the current issues, NBFCs and all this. So inside, in detail, I may not be able to tell you more because it was really inside, but yes, certain suggestions were given by the participants, and the basis of suggestion is that how to further improve the economy and the bring more reforms. So certain suggestions like to deepen corporate bond market and to enhance the scope for retail investors. So certain tax exemptions were asked for. I think remaining things, whenever these suggestions are accepted, it is presented in the budget, you can see it.
Big reform which everybody told us in the previous meetings when these customary meetings were done before the budget was that please recapitalize PSU banks. The government fired a bazooka, they recapitalized all the PSU banks. That was one major demand of the banks, and that one major demand was fulfilled, let's say 2 years ago. And after that also things have not smoothened out. How should we look at that entire recap money which banks got, and that has really gone down, not for very productive, not for a very productive way for the banking system?
No, I'll slightly differ with you that basically the banks were capitalized and it was required also. But you see, during the last 2-3 years, if you see, the asset quality review was taken. Earlier, the bankers was reluctant, little bit shy in declaring NPAs. After this asset quality review, most of the banks, in fact all the banks, they have cleaned their balance sheet, and when they clean the balance sheet, basically that NPAs are declared, provisions will be made. If you see the strength wise, most of the banks, they have been able to improve their provision coverage ratio, including our bank. If I say that the provision coverage ratio as on 31st March was 83%. So most of the banks are now over 70%. Earlier it used to be in the range of 45-50%. So now this one was the NPAs were recognized, provisions were made, and now the resolutions plans are being worked out. Now the capitalized, banks were capitalized and the capital was given. Of course, I agree, because the higher provisioning and all these things, the losses will increase, and most of these losses, when these are increasing, so basically the capital has supported them. If this capital was not there, then you just imagine what would have been the position. So that way the capitalization has certainly helped the banks in cleaning out of the balance sheet, and now going ahead, I think the position of the banks will certainly improve.
Are you getting a sense at all, Mr. Sharma, that perhaps the finance ministry does want banks to start lending, given that we've seen somewhat of a freeze mode on that front with all the concerns around NPAs? Do you see the situation changing? Are you getting any feelers from the finance ministry that they're urging banks to start changing that?
No, feelers, could you repeat basically what I understand from your question, that whether the banks will start lending? Yes. Again? I think yes, the banks are already lending, and including our bank, although we are under PCA, of course certain restrictions are there, that we cannot go for more large corporate, and there was a reason behind that, because the IDBI Bank and of course certain other banks who have been put under PCA, mostly the problems have occurred in the corporate financing, and there are various reasons for that. I need not go into the reasons again. Basically, that the international structure, the global effect, and the China's imports in steel, and then coal licenses getting so many issues were there, power structure, certain issues were there. So with that, the banks which were more in corporate financing and infrastructure finances have faced more problems. So because of that, certain banks were put under PCA, including our bank. So certain restrictions are there, but because that was why reason was that since there was a deficiency of capital, earlier Mr. Nikunj was telling that so much capital has been given. Despite that, the bank's position has not improved. Yes, I said the bank's position has improved, fundamentals have improved. But if those PCA banks also start doing further financing and they don't reform themselves, then again this capital will be a problem. How much capital can be invested? So we are trying to consolidate our position. Like in our bank also, last year we identified all the NPAs, recognized the problems, we recognized treasury issues, and all these things we have corrected now. So this year we will be doing consolidation basis. So once we are out of this NPA issues and recoveries are done, certainly ultimately the banks are there to raise deposits and lend money. If we do not do our business, how will we survive? So naturally we will start doing it. And now also, like our bank and other PCA banks also, they are doing retail advances. Our retail growth during this year, strictly under SRA, if you see structured retail asset, it was almost 18%, which is good growth.
Just to wrap it up with a couple of last questions, Mr. Sharma, the buzz around consolidation has only become firmer. SBI consolidated their subsidiaries. There's a big consolidation happening at BOB along with 2 more banks. Do you think in next 5 years there could be a serious case that if there are about 2 dozen PSU banks, it may just come down to at max 8 or 10?
Like these issues are also being discussed, of course, and you have seen, of course, as you rightly say, that SBI has consolidated, BOB has done it. So as of now, the BOB experiment has been, I think, reasonably successful, and going by that experience, maybe another 6 months. Once one more thing, personally I feel, of course, what government feels they will come out, but personally I feel like these bigger banks, of course, they have done consolidation. They have recognized the problems, their position is getting better, fundamentally they are getting stronger. But I think another 6 months to 1 year further, once they get further stronger, then it will be better for consolidation, because there is no point in merging some weak banks and making more problems for the banks. So another 6 months, 1 year, once the big banks becomes further more comfortable, I think it will be proper, and it is good idea to have some 5 or 6 or 6, 7 big banks. So that helps us on our international banking also, that increases our bargaining power, removes inter-competition, because all the banks, these public sector banks, are owned by the government of India. So what is the purpose in when all the banks compete with each other? So it's better always to have the less number of banks. Personally, I support that idea.
So if a proposal to merge IDBI Bank comes through with other strong bank, would your unions be okay to it?
No, but as far as IDBI Bank is concerned, we are in a specific, a different position. Now, what I'll say that recently in IDBI Bank also the government has done initiated some reform measures. So this was LIC taking 51% share in IDBI Bank. This was one of very good step and win-win situation for both LIC and IDBI. I think on our own we will be able to turn around the bank by Q3. So we have my plan is that during by the end of this financial year we should be out of PCA, and from Q3 or latest by Q4 we should start earning profits. The net NPA will be much below 6%. So all these factors, I think we will be able to survive on our own. For IDBI Bank, I don't think the further experimentation or the further measures will be required. With LIC and IDBI being together, do good brands, and it's a lot of synergies are being worked out. So I think already this experiment and good step has been taken. We will like to survive on our own, and will like to turn around the bank.
I'm going to ask you a personal question, Mr. Sharma. You have decided to come back from after retiring at the top from Canara Bank to fix the problem at IDBI Bank. What prompted you to take this decision? A lot of bankers would have said no to take the mantle of turning around a very difficult situation. Are you confident, or this is a very brave step which you've taken?
No, like I'll be very candid with you. The issue is that one, this 60 is not the age for retirement. So I feel that I have enough energy and enthusiasm in me, and drive to work in good position. So that way, when this position was offered to me, I thought it's a very good, it will be a very good experiment also for me, and good step for me, that if I am able to turn around this bank, personally I'll be very happy, and it will be really challenging. But I think the position is not so difficult. As I said, already we have identified the problems. Some of the problems have already been fixed up. Now only as you see the 31st March position, the improvements have taken place. We are doing improvement in HR, we are doing improvement in risk and risk management. So various policies are being reworked. We are in the process of appointing some consultants for further transformation, and government has also helped us in giving capital. LIC has given us capital. So capital, one more tranche of capital we are thinking of raising, around 10,000 capital we need, and will that we will be in a position when on our own we can go to the market and raise the capital also. So working on all these issues and having gained experience in various banks like SBI was there, then LVB and Canara Bank and all these things, if this will be the most satisfying experience for me if I am able to turn around. I am quite sure about it. So why to turn turn this offer? It would rather it's a pleasure and honor for me having accepted this. It's really a pleasure.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Such a pleasure chatting with you, Mr. Sharma. Thanks so much for being with us.